Okay, Chapter 5, Section 2. This should be really short. Production theory. And what we're looking at is this concept where sometimes more is not always enough. And there are other factors that determine, for a company, and this is what we're trying to understand from the company's perspective, why they do what they do. And, this is one of those things. Have you ever been in a work situation where there are too many people and they just got in the way? And situations like that, if you've ever volunteered and you had nothing to do, it's just you're like, why did I do this? This is boring. And so that's kind of what we're looking at here with production theory. Okay, so what we're looking at are the relationship of land, labor, and capital. Those are the three major variables that must be present to produce a product. So land is the actual space where the production is going to happen. Labor is the people involved, and capital is the money and the equipment needed to produce a product. So all that stuff costs money. Okay, so we break costs, I mean the money that you put into producing something, into two types: variable and fixed. And the good way to think about it is when the business is shut down and everybody goes home, and let's say they all go on vacation and the business is still there, you're still having to pay money for stuff. You're paying you're still paying the rent for the place, or the lease for the space that you're paying for, or you're paying the loans for the space and the equipment and the building. All that money that you pay, benefits paid to workers, sometimes you paying them even though they're not working, partly because they're on salaries. So those are fixed costs, and we can't really adjust those, and that's what we call fixed costs. Okay, now when the lights go on and that first worker walks in, immediately the owner is spending more money because now electricity costs rise, especially if we have hourly workers. As each additional hourly worker clocks in, we are paying more money. So those are variable costs. And so usually, as you add more workers and the tools that go with it, you get more production, more stuff that you can produce, which can be more money in your pocket when all is said and done. Okay, so more workers usually equals greater production. And so, but you have to understand, as you add workers, there comes a point when the improvement that next worker gives you isn't really worth it. And so, and then you move into a phase where if we keep adding workers, then now that worker is getting in the way, and you're losing money because that person costs you more than they produce. So it's not always the best idea to just hire as many workers as you can. This is a wonderful picture of a typical fundraiser. Notice the parents doing all the work here, and kids kind of messing around. These kids are just kind of in the way. Like, here we go, we're kind of farting around, and it's just one of these things where if you've ever been in a scenario like this, it's just not fun. But this is a great example of negative returns. More workers doesn't necessarily mean more production. Sometimes you get more work done when there's less people there. That's why if you're working and your boss says, hey, I want you to train this person, you need to get it through your head that you're not going to produce as much as you usually do. Now, you can get angry about that, but the idea is that if you train that person properly, eventually you and they can work separately and you can both be producing at high levels. So there's going to be a loss of your personal productivity, but over time it helps with the company. But this is one of those things where it's just way too many people all at once. So that is the main concept of production theory and negative returns.